The rain hammered against the glass walls of the downtown art gallery as Clara Reynolds pressed her palm against the cool surface, watching the city blur into watercolor streaks of light and shadow. She had come here to escape her cramped apartment and the suffocating weight of another rejection letter, this time from a publishing house that had seemed so promising. At 26, she was starting to wonder if her dreams of becoming a successful writer were just naive fantasies she should have abandoned years ago. "Beautiful, isn't it?" a deep voice said from behind her. "The way the rain transforms everything." Clara turned to find a man standing a respectful distance away, his hands in the pockets of an expensive charcoal suit that fit him perfectly. He was tall, with broad shoulders and salt and pepper hair that suggested he was somewhere in his early 40s. His face had the kind of rugged handsomeness that came with age and experience, strong jaw, slight lines around his eyes that deepened when he smiled. "I suppose," Clara said, caught off guard by the sudden conversation, "though I was hoping to walk home tonight without getting soaked." "That makes two of us." He moved closer, not invasively, but enough that she could see his eyes were a striking gray-blue. "Are you an art enthusiast or just seeking shelter?" Clara felt herself relax slightly. There was something genuine about him, a warmth that contradicted the austere elegance of his appearance. "A bit of both. I come here sometimes when I need to think. The paintings help me see the world differently. A writer." He guessed, and when she looked surprised, he gestured toward her bag where the corner of a battered notebook poked out. "I recognize the tools of the trade." "Aspiring," she corrected with a self-deprecating smile. "Though sometimes I wonder if that is just a polite word for unemployed." He laughed, a rich sound that seemed to fill the empty gallery. "I doubt that. The best things in life take time to develop properly." He extended his hand. "Robert Mitchell, Clara Reynolds." His handshake was firm, confident. She noticed he wore an understated but clearly expensive watch, the kind that whispered wealth rather than shouted it. They stood there for a moment, an unexpected ease settling between them as the rain continued its assault on the windows. Robert Mitchell had not intended to stop at the gallery that evening. He had been driving home from yet another tedious board meeting when the storm hit, and the glowing windows of the gallery had offered a convenient refuge. At 41, he had built a commercial real estate empire that spanned 3 states, turning neglected properties into thriving spaces. He had money, success, respect, everything he had worked for since his early 20s. What he did not have was this: the simple pleasure of conversation with someone who looked at him without seeing his net worth first. "What are you working on?" Robert asked, nodding toward her notebook. "If you do not mind me asking." Clara hesitated. She rarely shared her work with strangers, but something about this man invited honesty. "Short stories, mostly. I have been trying to get published for 3 years now. Today I got another rejection, which is why I am here drowning my sorrows in overpriced modern art instead of at a bar like a normal person." "Nothing normal about drowning anything in a bar," Robert said. "This seems like a much better choice." He gestured toward a nearby painting, an abstract piece with bold strokes of crimson and gold. "What do you see in that one?" Clara studied it, tilting her head. "Rage and hope fighting for dominance, like they cannot exist without each other." "Interesting. I see a sunset over a battlefield." "Maybe it is both," Clara said. "Maybe that is what makes it good." They wandered through the gallery together, the storm outside forgotten as they debated the merits of various pieces. Robert found himself fascinated by the way Clara's mind worked, how she could find stories in abstract shapes and colors. She was intelligent, passionate, and refreshingly unpretentious. When she laughed at one of his observations, her whole face lit up, and he felt something stir in his chest that he had not experienced in years. For Clara, Robert was unlike anyone she had encountered in her usual circles of struggling artists and writers. He was grounded, thoughtful, and he actually listened when she spoke. She noticed the way he considered his words before speaking, the quiet confidence that came not from arrogance but from genuine self-assurance. The age difference was obvious, but somehow it did not matter. They were just two people finding unexpected connection on a rainy evening. When the gallery attendant announced they would be closing in 15 minutes, Clara was startled to realize they had been talking for nearly 2 hours. The rain had softened to a light drizzle, and the city lights reflected off the wet pavement in shimmering pools. "I should let you get home," Robert said, though he made no move to leave. "But I would like to continue this conversation if you are interested. Perhaps over dinner tomorrow." Clara felt her heart skip. This felt like more than casual interest, and the intensity in his eyes confirmed it. She should probably be cautious. She knew nothing about this man beyond his name and his appreciation for art, but something told her to take the chance. "I would like that," she said. Robert's smile was worth the leap of faith. He pulled out his phone. "May I have your number?" As they exchanged contact information, Clara noticed the name of the company listed under his caller ID, Mitchell Properties. She recognized it vaguely as one of the major real estate development firms in the city, but the significance did not fully register. They walked out together into the damp evening air, and Robert insisted on calling her a car despite her protests. "I want to make sure you get home safely," he said, already tapping on his phone. "Humor me." The car arrived within minutes, a sleek black sedan that was clearly not a regular rideshare. Clara climbed in, glancing back to see Robert standing on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, watching until the car pulled away. That night, Clara lay in bed staring at the ceiling of her tiny studio apartment, her phone resting on her chest. She kept replaying the evening in her mind, analyzing every word, every glance. It had been a long time since she had felt this kind of connection with someone. Her last relationship had ended badly over a year ago when her ex had grown tired of dating someone with no stable income or clear future. She had sworn off men for a while after that, focusing on her writing and her day job at the bookstore that paid just enough to cover rent and ramen. But Robert felt different. There was a maturity about him, a groundedness she found incredibly appealing. And the way he had looked at her, like she was the most fascinating person in the world, had made her feel seen in a way she had not experienced before. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Thank you for a wonderful evening. Looking forward to tomorrow. Robert." Clara smiled, her fingers hovering over the keyboard before typing back. "Me too. Sleep well." She did not sleep well. She tossed and turned, alternating between excitement and anxiety. What would she wear? Where would they go? What if the magic of the gallery did not translate to a proper date? By morning, she had changed her mind about her outfit 7 times and was running late for her shift at the bookstore. Her coworker and best friend, Maya, took one look at her face and knew something was up. "Spill," Maya demanded, cornering Clara behind the register during a slow moment. "You have that look." "What look?" Clara asked, trying to act innocent. "The I met someone look. Your cheeks are flushed and you keep checking your phone." "Who is he?" Clara relented, telling Maya about the encounter at the gallery. Maya listened with increasing excitement, interrupting only to demand more details. "So he is older," Maya said when Clara finished. "How much older?" "I do not know exactly. Maybe 15 years. Does it matter?" Maya considered this. "I guess not if you like him. Is he hot?" "Very," Clara admitted, feeling her cheeks warm. "But it is not just that. He is interesting. We talked for 2 hours and it felt like 20 minutes. That is a good sign, Maya said sagely, though her own romantic history was just as checkered as Clara's. Where is he taking you tonight? I have no idea, he just said dinner. As if on cue, Clara's phone buzzed. Another text from Robert. I hope this is not too presumptuous, but I made a reservation at Marcello's for 7. If Italian does not work for you, I am happy to change it. Clara's eyes widened. Marcello's was one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city, the kind of place that required reservations weeks in advance. She showed Maya the text. Okay, so he is either really well connected or really rich, Maya said. Probably both. Clara, who is this guy? I do not know, Clara said honestly. I mean, I know his name is Robert Mitchell and he seems successful, but we did not really talk about what he does. Maya grabbed Clara's phone and typed his name into the search bar. Her eyes went wide. Oh my God, Clara. Oh my God. What? Clara tried to see the screen, but Maya held it away. Your mystery man is not just successful. He is a multimillionaire. Look. She turned the phone around. Clara stared at the article Maya had pulled up. It was from a business magazine, published about 6 months ago, featuring Robert Mitchell as one of the city's most influential real estate developers. The article detailed his rise from a modest background to becoming one of the most successful businessmen in the region, with an estimated net worth in the tens of millions. There was a photo of him at some gala event, looking impossibly handsome in a tuxedo, a polite smile on his face that did not quite reach his eyes. This is who you are going to dinner with tonight, Maya said. Holy hell, Clara. Clara felt a flutter of panic. Why would someone like him be interested in me? Because you are amazing, Maya said firmly. Smart, beautiful, talented. Stop selling yourself short. But Clara could not shake the unease. She was a broke writer living paycheck to paycheck in a 4th-floor walk-up. Robert was a millionaire who probably owned half the buildings she walked past every day. What could they possibly have in common beyond a shared appreciation for abstract art still? She texted back. Italian is perfect, thank you. His response came immediately. Wonderful. I will pick you up at 6:30. Send me your address. Clara hesitated only briefly before typing out her address. She had already said yes. She might as well see it through. The rest of the day crawled by. Clara left work early, much to Maya's encouragement, and spent an hour getting ready. She chose a simple black dress that she had bought for a friend's wedding 2 years ago, paired it with the one pair of heels she owned that did not give her blisters, and did her makeup with a careful hand. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked sophisticated, put together, like someone who belonged in places like Marcello's. At exactly 6:30, her phone rang. Robert was downstairs. Clara grabbed her purse and headed down the narrow staircase, her heels clicking on the worn steps. When she pushed open the building's front door, she found Robert standing beside a sleek silver Audi, looking unfairly handsome in dark slacks and a navy button-down that brought out the blue in his eyes. His face, when he saw her, made every minute of preparation worth it. You look stunning, he said, his voice carrying a note of genuine awe. Thank you, Clara said, hoping her voice sounded steadier than she felt. You clean up pretty well yourself. Robert opened the passenger door for her, a gesture that felt old-fashioned in the best way. The car's interior smelled like leather and subtle cologne. As they pulled into traffic, Clara found her nerves settling. Robert asked about her day, and she found herself telling him about the bookstore, about Maya's reactions, about everything except the fact that she had looked him up online. I should probably be upfront about something, Robert said as they merged onto the highway. I did not mention last night what I do for a living, and I realize that might have seemed evasive. You do not owe me an explanation, Clara said quickly. "No, but I want to give you one anyway." He glanced at her briefly before returning his eyes to the road. "I own a real estate development company. It has been successful, which means I have a certain public profile that I do not always enjoy. Last night it was nice to just be myself, not Robert Mitchell the businessman. Just Robert." "I understand," Clara said, and she did. She could see how the weight of public expectation might become exhausting. "For what it is worth, I like just Robert quite a bit." His smile was warm, relieved. "I like just Clara quite a bit too. Speaking of which, tell me about your writing." "What kind of stories do you tell?" Clara relaxed into the conversation, describing her work and her aspirations. Robert listened intently, asking thoughtful questions that showed he was genuinely interested. By the time they arrived at Marcello's, Clara had almost forgotten to be nervous. The restaurant was exactly as elegant as she had imagined. All soft lighting and white tablecloths and murmured conversations. The host greeted Robert by name and led them to a secluded table near a window overlooking the city. Clara felt like she had stepped into a different world, one where everything was beautiful and refined and completely foreign to her everyday existence. "Is this too much?" Robert asked, noticing her wide-eyed look around the room. "I wanted to impress you, but if you would be more comfortable somewhere else." "No," Clara said quickly. "It is beautiful. I am just not used to places like this." "Neither was I for a long time," Robert said. "I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 siblings. My first job was washing dishes at a diner. All of this," he gestured around the restaurant, "still feels surreal sometimes." That confession made Clara relax completely. This was not some entitled rich man flaunting his wealth. This was someone who had worked hard and built something from nothing. Someone who remembered where he came from. Dinner was extraordinary. They shared appetizers, debated the merits of various pasta dishes, and split a tiramisu that Clara declared the best thing she had ever tasted. The conversation flowed as easily as it had the night before, ranging from favorite books to childhood memories to dreams for the future. Robert told her about his plans to renovate a historic theater downtown, preserving its original architecture while making it functional for modern performances. Clara shared her secret ambition to write a novel, something she had been too scared to attempt. "Why scared?" Robert asked, leaning forward with genuine curiosity. "Because a novel feels so much bigger than a short story," Clara admitted. "More commitment, more ways to fail." "What if I spend a year working on it and it is terrible?" "What if you spend a year working on it and it is brilliant?" Robert countered. "Clara, from what you have told me, writing is what you are meant to do. Fear is just noise trying to drown out your purpose." His words struck something deep inside her. "You make it sound so simple. Not simple, but worth it." He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. "Some of the best things in life require taking risks." The touch sent electricity through Clara's skin. She met his eyes and saw something there that made her breath catch. This was not just dinner. This was the beginning of something real. As they drove back to her apartment later that night, Clara found herself wishing the evening did not have to end. Robert seemed to feel the same way. He parked in front of her building but made no move to get out. "I had a wonderful time," he said, turning in his seat to face her. "I would very much like to see you again." "I would like that too," Clara said softly. Robert hesitated, then said, "I know we just met, and I do not want to rush anything, but I feel like I need to be honest with you. I have not felt this way about anyone in a long time. There is something about you that just fits. Does that sound crazy?" "No," Clara said, her heart racing. "It does not sound crazy at all." He cupped her face gently, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When she did not, he kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. Clara melted into it, her hand coming up to rest against his chest where she could feel his heart beating as fast as hers. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. "I will call you tomorrow," Robert said. "Is that too soon?" "Not soon enough," Clara replied, making him laugh. She practically floated up the 4 flights of stairs to her apartment, her lips still tingling from the kiss. Maya called within minutes, demanding details, and Clara spent the next hour reliving every moment of the evening. When she finally hung up and got ready for bed, she found herself thinking that maybe, just maybe, good things really did happen to people like her. Over the next few weeks, Clara and Robert fell into a pattern. They saw each other as often as their schedules allowed, which was usually 3 or 4 times a week. Robert never complained about her modest apartment or her irregular work hours. He showed up with takeout on nights when she was too tired to go out, sat on her second-hand couch, and listened to her read passages from the novel she had finally started writing. For his part, Robert found himself rearranging his entire life to accommodate Clara. He delegated more to his team, turned down social obligations, and discovered that he did not miss any of it. What he had been missing, he realized, was this: genuine connection with someone who challenged him, made him laugh, and saw him as more than a bank account or a business opportunity. The age difference that Clara had worried about never seemed to matter. If anything, it added depth to their relationship. Robert's life experience meant he approached problems with a calm pragmatism that balanced Clara's creative impulsiveness. Clara's youthful energy and optimism reminded Robert not to take everything so seriously. They complemented each other in ways that felt natural, inevitable. But Clara knew they existed in a bubble, and bubbles always burst eventually. The reality of their different worlds became apparent when Robert invited her to a charity gala his company was sponsoring. It was for a good cause, funding arts programs in public schools, and Clara could not say no despite her reservations. "I do not have anything to wear to something like that," she admitted when Robert brought it up over dinner at her place, both of them sitting on the floor because her table only seated 2, and they had decided the floor was cozier anyway. "We can fix that," Robert said easily. "Let me take you shopping." "Absolutely not," Clara said firmly. "I am not letting you buy me an expensive dress." "Why not?" "Because that is not what this is," Clara said, gesturing between them. "I do not want you to think I am with you because of your money." Robert set down his fork, his expression serious. "Clara, I know exactly why you are with me, and it has nothing to do with my bank account. You have never once asked me for anything. If anything, you refuse to let me pay for things more often than not, which I find both admirable and occasionally frustrating." He smiled to soften the words. "Let me do this. Not because I think you need me to, but because I want to see you in something that makes you feel as beautiful as I think you are." When he put it like that, how could she say no? The shopping trip turned into an unexpectedly fun afternoon. Robert took her to a boutique where the staff clearly knew him, and Clara tried on a dozen dresses before finding the one. A deep emerald gown that hugged her curves and made her eyes look impossibly green. When she stepped out of the dressing room, Robert's expression told her everything she needed to know. "That is the one," he said, his voice slightly rough. At the gala 2 weeks later, Clara felt like she had stepped into a movie. The venue was a restored mansion with soaring ceilings and crystal chandeliers. Women in designer gowns mingled with men in tuxedos, everyone holding champagne flutes and discussing things like market trends and vacation homes in Tuscany. Clara felt completely out of her depth. Robert must have sensed her discomfort because he kept her close, his hand resting on the small of her back as he introduced her to various colleagues and associates. Clara noticed the looks they received. Curiosity, speculation, and in some cases, barely concealed judgment. She could practically hear the whispers. Who is she? Where did she come from? What is someone like him doing with someone like her? Robert Mitchell, as I live and breathe, a voice called out. A woman approached, tall and blonde and dripping with diamonds. I have not seen you at one of these events with a date in years. Veronica, Robert said politely but without warmth. Clara, this is Veronica Harper. We served on a board together a few years ago. Veronica, this is Clara Reynolds. Charmed, Veronica said, though her smile did not reach her eyes as she looked Clara up and down. And what do you do, Clara? I am a writer, Clara said, lifting her chin slightly. How interesting, Veronica said in a tone that suggested it was anything but published. Working on it, Clara said evenly. Well, best of luck with that, Veronica said. She turned her attention back to Robert. We should catch up properly sometime, Robert. I have a proposition that might interest you. I am quite content with my current situation, Robert said, his hand pressing more firmly against Clara's back. If you will excuse us. He guided Clara away, leaving Veronica looking faintly annoyed. I am sorry about that, Robert said once they were out of earshot. Veronica is complicated. An ex, Clara guessed. We went on a few dates years ago. It did not work out. Robert stopped, turning to face her fully. Clara, I need you to know something. The people here, this world, it is not really who I am. It is part of my life, yes, but it is not the part that matters. You are the part that matters. I know, Clara said, meaning it. But she also knew that this was his world, whether he liked it or not, and she was not sure she fit into it. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of small talk and forced smiles. By the time Robert drove her home, Clara was exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with physical tiredness. She leaned her head against the car window, watching the city lights blur past. You are quiet, Robert observed. Did you have a terrible time? No, Clara said honestly. Everyone was perfectly polite. But Robert, those people, they looked at me like I did not belong there, like I was some kind of imposter. That is their problem, not yours, Robert said firmly. Clara, I do not care what anyone thinks about us. The only opinions that matter are yours and mine. Do you ever think about the fact that we are from completely different worlds? Clara asked. You have this incredible life, this empire you built. I write stories and sell books for $11 an hour. What happens when the novelty wears off and you realize how little I have to offer? Robert pulled the car over, right there on the side of the road, and turned to face her. Listen to me, he said, his voice intense. What you offer me has nothing to do with money or status. You offer me yourself, your mind, your creativity, your genuine heart. You make me laugh. You challenge me. You remind me what actually matters in life. If you think any of that is little, then you are not seeing yourself clearly. I am 15 years younger than you, Clara said, finally voicing the fear that had been gnawing at her. I am still figuring out who I am and what I want. What if I change? What if I am not enough, Clara? Robert said, taking her hands in his. Age is just a number. Yes, I have more life experience, but that does not make what we have any less real. And as for being enough, you are more than I ever expected to find. Please do not let fear or other people's judgment sabotage something this good. Clara looked at their intertwined hands, at the earnestness in his eyes, and felt her doubts begin to dissolve. You are right, she said softly. I am sorry. Tonight just made me feel small. You are anything but small, Robert said. He leaned in and kissed her forehead. You are extraordinary. They stayed there for a while, parked on the side of the road, just holding each other. When Robert finally drove her home, Clara felt steadier, more certain. She invited him up, and they spent the rest of the night on her couch, talking and kissing and reaffirming everything that mattered between them. As spring turned into summer, their relationship deepened. Robert met Maya properly and won her over by listening patiently to her passionate rant about the publishing industry's gatekeeping. Clara met Robert's younger sister, Jennifer, and was relieved when Jennifer immediately liked her, declaring that Robert seemed happier than she had seen him in years. "He was married once, you know," Jennifer told Clara over coffee one afternoon when Robert was stuck in a meeting. "8 years ago. It ended badly. She only wanted the lifestyle, not him. He has been guarded ever since until you." Clara had suspected there was a failed marriage somewhere in Robert's past, but hearing it confirmed put some of his behavior into perspective. His initial hesitation to talk about his wealth, his emphasis on genuine connection, his relief at finding someone who saw him as more than his bank account. "I do care about him," Clara said, "more than I expected to." "I know," Jennifer said with a warm smile. "I can see it, and he is head over heels for you. Fair warning, though, he is going to ask you to move in with him soon. He has been looking at apartments for weeks." Clara's eyes widened. "What? He has not mentioned it yet because he is worried about pressuring you," Jennifer said. "But your lease is up in 2 months, right? He wants you with him, but he has been freaking out about how to ask." Clara sat back in her chair, processing this. They had been together for almost 4 months, and yes, she spent most nights at his place anyway, but actually moving in together felt like a huge step. Then again, why not? She loved him. She was pretty sure he loved her, even though neither of them had said the words yet. Maybe it was time to stop being so cautious. That night, when Robert picked her up for dinner, Clara decided to take the initiative. "Your sister told me something interesting today," she said as they walked hand in hand down the street. Robert groaned. "What did Jennifer say?" "That you have been looking at apartments." He stopped walking, his expression sheepish. "I was going to talk to you about that. I know your lease is up soon, and I have been thinking, well, my place is big enough for 2, more than big enough actually, and you are already there most of the time anyway. I thought maybe you would want to, but I do not want to pressure you, and if it is too soon, just forget I even brought this up." Clara laughed at his uncharacteristic nervousness. "Robert, yes, I would love to move in with you." His face lit up. "Really, really," Clara confirmed. "But on one condition. Name it. I pay rent. I am not living with you for free like some kept woman." Robert sighed. "Clara, I own the apartment outright. There is no rent. Then I pay for groceries or utilities, something." She crossed her arms. "This is non-negotiable." He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Groceries. Deal." They sealed it with a kiss right there on the sidewalk, earning amused looks from passing pedestrians. Moving in together turned out to be one of the best decisions Clara had ever made. Robert's apartment, a spacious penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the river, became their home. Clara set up a writing space in the spare bedroom, and Robert surprised her by having custom bookshelves built to house her growing collection of novels. It was not without adjustments. Clara had to get used to having space, to not worrying about every penny, to the surreal reality of living in a place with a doorman and a gym. Robert had to get used to sharing his meticulously organized space with someone who tended to leave half-finished cups of tea in random locations, and whose creative process involved spreading research materials across every available surface. But they made it work. More than that, they thrived. Clara finished the first draft of her novel and sent it to a literary agent who had expressed interest after reading one of her short stories. Robert successfully completed the theater renovation and invited Clara to the grand reopening, where he publicly credited her as his inspiration for preserving the building's artistic integrity. 6 months after Clara moved in, on a crisp autumn evening, Robert came home from work looking uncharacteristically nervous. Clara was curled up on the couch, editing her manuscript when he sat down beside her and took her hand. "I need to tell you something," he said. Clara set aside her laptop, concerned. "What is wrong?" "Nothing is wrong. Everything is right, actually. That is the problem." He took a deep breath. "Clara, I love you. I think I loved you from that first night in the gallery when you told me you saw rage and hope fighting for dominance. You have made me happier than I have ever been. You have given me purpose beyond just building and acquiring and succeeding. With you, I am just Robert, just a man who gets to wake up every morning next to the woman he adores." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. "I love you too," she whispered. "So much." "Good," Robert said, his voice shaking slightly. "Because I have something to ask you, and I really hope you say yes." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and opened it to reveal a stunning diamond ring, elegant and understated, absolutely perfect. "Clara Reynolds, will you marry me?" Clara launched herself at him, nearly knocking them both off the couch. "Yes," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, absolutely yes." Robert slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly, like everything else between them. They held each other for a long time, both slightly overwhelmed by the enormity of the commitment they were making. When they finally pulled apart, Robert was grinning like a kid at Christmas. "I was so nervous," he admitted. "I kept thinking, what if she says no? What if she thinks we are rushing?" "Are you kidding?" Clara said. "I have never been more sure of anything in my life." They called their families that night, spreading the joy. Jennifer shrieked so loudly that Robert had to hold the phone away from his ear. Maya demanded to see the ring immediately, and showed up at their apartment 30 minutes later with champagne and wedding magazines. Clara's parents, who lived upstate and had only met Robert twice, expressed their happiness but also their concerns about the age difference and the speed of the relationship. "Honey, we just want to make sure you are not rushing into this," Clara's mother said gently when Clara called the next day to address their worries. "You are only 27. Robert is a wonderful man, but he is at a very different stage in his life." "Mom, I know this seems fast, but it is right," Clara said. "The age difference does not matter. We want the same things. We love each other. Is not that what is important, of course," her mother said. "We just worry. You have always been so impulsive, so ready to dive into the next adventure. We do not want you to get hurt." "I am not going to get hurt," Clara said with more confidence than she felt. The truth was, she did sometimes worry about the age gap. Not in terms of their relationship itself, which felt natural and right, but about the future. Robert had already built his career, already achieved his major life goals. Clara was still figuring out who she was and what she wanted. What if she changed? What if the person she became at 35 was someone entirely different? Robert sensed her unease that evening when she was quieter than usual. "Your parents are worried," he guessed. "They are happy for me," Clara said. They wonder if we are rushing, if the age difference might cause problems down the road." Robert set down the book he had been reading and gave Clara his full attention. "Do you think we are rushing?" "No," Clara said immediately, then paused. "Maybe. I do not know. Robert, you have already done so much with your life. You have built this incredible career, you have traveled, you have experienced things I cannot even imagine. What if I wake up in 5 years and realize I want something completely different? What if I hold you back?" "Clara, look at me," Robert said. When she did, his eyes were steady and sure. "I have spent the last 15 years building a business. Do you know what I have not done? Truly lived. I have not taken vacations just for fun. I have not spent lazy Sunday mornings in bed with someone I love. I have not felt this excited about the future in years. You are not holding me back." You are giving me room to grow in ways I did not even know I needed. But what about kids? Clara asked, voicing one of her deepest fears. I think I want them someday, but I am not ready yet. You are 42. Are you willing to wait for me? Yes, Robert said without hesitation. Clara, I want a life with you, whatever shape that takes. If you want kids, great. If you do not, that is fine too. If you want to wait 5 years, 10 years, we will wait. Nothing about our age difference changes how I feel about you. You really mean that? Clara said, not quite a question. I really mean that. He pulled her close. We are partners, Clara, equals. We figure things out together. Over the following weeks, as they started planning the wedding, Clara found her doubts fading. Every interaction reinforced what Robert had said. They were partners. He did not make decisions without consulting her. He did not use his greater financial resources to control or manipulate. When Clara got a call from the literary agent saying that a publisher wanted to buy her novel, Robert was as excited as she was, immediately suggesting they celebrate and never once making it about him. The wedding itself was planned for the spring, a small ceremony with just close friends and family. Clara did not want anything huge or ostentatious, and Robert was happy to go along with whatever she wanted. They chose a venue in a restored garden, intimate and beautiful, perfect for the understated elegance they both preferred. As the wedding date approached, Clara found herself reflecting on how much her life had changed in less than a year. She had gone from a struggling writer living in a cramped studio to an engaged woman with a book deal and a partner who believed in her completely. It was almost too much, too fast, except that it did not feel that way. It felt like pieces falling into place. The night before the wedding, Clara stayed at Maya's apartment, honoring the tradition of not seeing the groom before the ceremony. She could not sleep, too excited and nervous and full of anticipation. Maya sat up with her, eating ice cream straight from the container and talking about everything and nothing. Are you scared? Maya asked at some point past midnight. Terrified, Clara admitted. Not of marrying Robert, of everything else, of being someone's wife, of living up to expectations. Of this all being some dream that I wake up from. It is real, Maya said firmly, and you deserve it, all of it. Clara, I have known you since college, and I have never seen you this happy, this sure of yourself. Robert is good for you, you are good for him. Stop overthinking it and just enjoy tomorrow. Maya was right. When Clara walked down the aisle the next day, her father's arm linked through hers and saw Robert waiting at the end with tears in his eyes, every doubt evaporated. This was real. This was right. This was her future, and it was better than anything she could have imagined. The ceremony was beautiful and emotional. They had written their own vows, and when it was Robert's turn to speak, his voice was thick with feeling. Clara, you walked into my life on a rainy evening and changed everything. You taught me that success is not measured in properties or profits, but in moments of genuine connection. You have given me a reason to slow down, to appreciate the small things, to believe in love again. I promise to support your dreams, to challenge you when you need it, to hold you when you do not. I promise to be your partner, your equal, your best friend. Age, time, circumstances, none of it matters as long as I have you. Clara was crying by the time he finished. Her own vows were shorter but no less heartfelt. Robert, you saw me when I felt invisible. You believed in me when I doubted myself. You loved me not for who I might become, but for who I am right now in this moment. The world sees a successful businessman, but I see the man who brings me coffee in bed and listens to me read terrible first drafts and makes me feel like anything is possible. I promise to keep challenging you, to keep you honest, to never let you take life too seriously. I promise to build a life with you that is full of laughter and love and all the messy, beautiful moments in between. 15 years is just a number. What we have is timeless." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Robert kissed her like they were the only two people in the world. The small crowd cheered, and Clara felt a surge of pure joy so intense it was almost overwhelming. The reception was held in the garden, strings of lights twinkling overhead as the sun set. Clara danced with her father, with Robert's brother, with Maya, but her favorite dance was the last one of the evening with Robert, swaying slowly to a song that felt like it was written just for them. "Mrs. Mitchell," Robert murmured into her hair. "That has a nice ring to it." "It really does," Clara agreed. She had decided to take his name, not because she felt she had to, but because she wanted to. It felt like officially joining their lives together. "What are you thinking about?" Robert asked. "How a year ago I was convinced my life was going nowhere," Clara said. "And now I am married to the love of my life. It is kind of surreal." "We can be surreal together," Robert said, making her laugh. They honeymooned in Italy, 2 weeks of exploring ancient cities, eating incredible food, and learning how to simply be together without the distractions of daily life. Robert was different there, more relaxed, quicker to laugh. Clara saw glimpses of who he must have been before the weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders, and she loved that version of him even more than the composed businessman she had met in the gallery. One evening in Rome, sitting at a cafe overlooking the Trevi Fountain, Robert took Clara's hand across the table. "I want to talk to you about something," he said, Clara's stomach clenched. Those words never led anywhere good. "Okay." "I have been thinking about scaling back my involvement in the company," Robert said. "Not retiring completely, but maybe stepping back from the day-to-day operations. I have good people who can handle most of it. I want more time for us, for our life together." "Maybe for the family we might have someday." Clara stared at him. "You would do that." "I want to do that," Robert corrected. "Clara, you have shown me what I have been missing by being so focused on work. I do not want to wake up in 10 years and realize I spent our entire marriage in an office. I want to travel with you. I want to be present for whatever adventures come next. Does that sound good to you?" "That sounds perfect," Clara said, her voice catching. "But Robert, I do not want you to give up something you love because of me." "I am not giving up anything," Robert said. "I am choosing something better. There is a difference." They toasted to new beginnings, to the future they were building together, to the unexpected gift of finding exactly the right person at exactly the right time. When they returned from their honeymoon, they settled into married life with surprising ease. Robert made good on his promise to scale back at work, delegating more to his management team and setting stricter boundaries around his time. Clara's novel was published 6 months later to positive reviews, not a bestseller, but successful enough to warrant a second book deal. They celebrated each milestone together, big and small. The age difference that Clara had worried so much about turned out to be a non-issue. If anything, it was an advantage. Robert's life experience meant he approached challenges with a calm wisdom that balanced Clara's sometimes reactive nature. Clara's youthful perspective kept Robert from becoming too set in his ways, encouraging him to take risks and try new things. They learned from each other constantly, growing together rather than apart. A year into their marriage, Clara brought up the subject of children again. They were lying in bed on a Sunday morning, lazy and content, when she said, "I think I might be ready." "Ready for what?" Robert asked, though his suddenly alert expression suggested he knew exactly what she meant. "A baby," Clara said. "I know we said we would wait, and if you are not ready, that is fine, but I have been thinking about it a lot lately, and I think I want to try." Robert rolled over to face her fully, his expression serious. "Are you sure? I do not want you to feel pressured. Your career is just taking off." "I know," Clara said, "but I can write and be a mother. Other women do it all the time. And honestly, the idea of having a child with you, of building that kind of family, it feels right." "Does it feel right to you?" "It feels incredibly right," Robert admitted. His hand moved to rest on her stomach, protective and tender. "I am 44. I will be in my 60s when our kid is in high school. That does not worry you." "No," Clara said honestly. "You are healthier and more energetic than most 30-year-olds I know. Besides, we will be in it together." They started trying, and 3 months later, Clara saw the positive pregnancy test. She told Robert by leaving the test on his bathroom counter with a note that said, "Looks like we are going to need a bigger place after all." His shout of joy echoed through the entire apartment. He found her in the kitchen, swept her into his arms, and spun her around until she was dizzy and laughing. "We are having a baby," he kept repeating like he could not quite believe it. "We are having a baby." The pregnancy was not easy. Clara dealt with severe morning sickness for the first trimester and was exhausted constantly. Robert was endlessly patient, rubbing her feet, bringing her crackers in the middle of the night, accompanying her to every doctor's appointment. When they found out they were having a daughter, Clara cried happy tears while Robert sat stunned and delighted. "A little girl," he kept saying. "We are having a daughter." They spent months preparing, turning one of the spare bedrooms into a nursery. Robert insisted on painting it himself, pale yellow with white trim, and Clara decorated it with books and soft toys and framed prints of classic children's illustrations. They read parenting books together, attended classes, and argued playfully about names until they settled on Emma, after Clara's grandmother. Emma Mitchell arrived 3 weeks early on a snowy February morning, 7 pounds of perfection with her mother's eyes and her father's dark hair. Robert held her for the first time with tears streaming down his face, looking at Clara like she had given him the entire world. "She is perfect," he whispered. "You are both perfect." Clara, exhausted and overwhelmed and completely in love, watched her husband cradle their daughter and thought about how far they had come. From strangers in an art gallery to parents, partners, a family. The journey had not been without challenges, but every obstacle had only strengthened what they shared. The first few months with a newborn were chaotic. Clara struggled with breastfeeding, sleep deprivation, and the overwhelming responsibility of keeping another human alive. Robert took paternity leave, something he had never done for his business before, and threw himself into fatherhood with the same intensity he brought to everything else. He changed diapers, walked the floors with a crying baby at 3 in the morning, and researched every parenting question with characteristic thoroughness. They learned together, stumbling through the uncertainty of new parenthood. Clara went back to writing when Emma was 4 months old, working during nap times and in the evenings while Robert took over baby duty. Her second novel, inspired partly by her experiences of becoming a mother, resonated with readers in a way her first had not, landing on several bestseller lists. Robert, watching his wife's career flourish while raising their daughter, felt nothing but pride. This was what he had wanted, a full life rich with meaning beyond just professional success. Emma gave him purpose in a way business deals never had. Watching her grow, her personality emerging day by day, was more rewarding than any acquisition or development project. When Emma was 18 months old, Clara found herself pregnant again, a surprise but a welcome one. Their son, Thomas, was born on a warm August evening, bigger than his sister had been and with an impressively loud cry. Robert, now 47, joked that he was too old for sleepless nights, but his devotion to his children proved otherwise. Life became a beautiful chaos of diapers and bedtime stories, first words and first steps. Clara wrote when she could, fitting it around nap schedules and daycare hours. Robert continued to step back from the company, eventually transitioning to a chairman role that allowed him to work from home most days. They hired help when they needed it, but both were committed to being present for their children's lives. The years passed in a blur of birthday parties and family vacations, school plays and scraped knees. Emma grew into a precocious, curious child who loved books as much as her mother. Thomas was all energy and mischief, keeping them constantly on their toes. Clara and Robert navigated parenthood together, supporting each other through the challenges and celebrating every milestone. On their 5th wedding anniversary, they managed to steal away for a weekend alone, leaving the kids with Jennifer. They went back to the city where they had met, walking hand in hand through the art gallery where their story had begun. "You remember what you said to me that night?" Robert asked, standing in front of the same abstract painting they had discussed 5 years earlier. "About rage and hope fighting for dominance." "I remember," Clara said. "I think I understand it better now," Robert said. "Building a life together, raising a family, it is full of both. The rage of exhaustion and frustration and the hope that keeps you going. They cannot exist without each other." "When did you get so philosophical?" Clara teased. "I married a writer," Robert said, pulling her close. "It was bound to rub off eventually." They kissed there in the gallery, 5 years older than they had been, infinitely wiser, still just as in love. The age gap that had seemed so significant at the beginning had faded into irrelevance. They were just Robert and Clara, partners navigating life together. Clara's writing career continued to flourish. By the time Emma started elementary school, Clara had published 4 novels and established herself as a respected voice in contemporary fiction. Robert, now in his early 50s, had fully transitioned into a consulting role, advising on select projects that interested him but no longer carrying the weight of running the company day to day. They had built a life that neither had quite imagined but both cherished. Their home, a larger apartment in a family-friendly neighborhood, was full of laughter and love and the comfortable chaos of children. They had date nights when they could manage them, stolen moments of conversation over coffee while the kids watched cartoons, quiet evenings after bedtime when they would sit together and just be. "You ever regret it?" Clara asked one such evening, curled up against Robert's side on the couch. "Giving up so much of your work for this?" "Not for a single second," Robert said without hesitation. "Clara, my work will outlast me. Buildings will stand long after I am gone. But this," he gestured around their home, "this is my legacy. You, Emma Thomas, the life we built together. That matters more than any property deal ever could." "I love you," Clara said, the words still carrying the same weight they had on that first night when she had finally said them. "I love you too," Robert replied. "More every day, if that is even possible." As their children grew, Robert and Clara fell into the rhythm of long-term marriage. They had fights, of course, disagreements about parenting styles and household responsibilities, and how to handle Robert's mother, who had very strong opinions about everything. But they had learned how to argue productively, how to listen and compromise, and always come back to the foundation of love and respect they had built. The age difference that had worried Clara's parents became a non-issue. If anything, Robert's maturity and financial stability had provided a foundation that allowed Clara to pursue her creative career without the constant stress of financial insecurity. And Clara's energy and perspective had kept Robert engaged with the world, preventing him from becoming one of those men who retire and have no idea what to do with themselves. When Emma turned 10 and Thomas was 8, the family took a trip to Italy, retracing the steps of Robert and Clara's honeymoon. The kids were old enough to appreciate the history and culture, and Clara found herself watching Robert explain Roman architecture to Thomas, pointing out details in a fresco to Emma, and feeling overwhelming gratitude for the life they had created. "What are you thinking?" Robert asked, catching her watching them. "That I almost let fear stop me from saying yes to dinner that first night," Clara admitted. "I was so worried about our differences, the age gap, all of it. It seems silly now." "Not silly," Robert said. "Understandable. We did not have any business working on paper. 15-year age difference, completely different backgrounds. You were just starting your career while I was established in mine. But somehow we made it work." "We made it work because none of that actually mattered," Clara said. "What mattered was how we felt about each other, how we treated each other, the partnership we built." "Best decision I ever made," Robert said, taking shelter from the rain in that gallery. "Best decision I ever made," Clara countered, "giving you my number." They smiled at each other, a shared moment of understanding and appreciation, before Thomas demanded their attention to settle a dispute with Emma about which gelato flavor was superior. Years continued to pass. Robert reached his late 50s with grace, staying active and healthy, determined to be present for his children's lives well into their adulthood. Clara hit her stride as a writer, her 7th novel winning a prestigious literary award. They celebrated each other's successes, weathered the inevitable setbacks, and built a marriage that deepened with time. On their 15th wedding anniversary, they threw a party, inviting the friends and family who had supported them through the years. Maya gave a toast that had everyone laughing and crying, recounting how she had immediately Googled Robert after Clara's first date, and nearly had a heart attack when she realized her best friend was dating a millionaire. "But what I realized pretty quickly," Maya said, raising her glass, "was that Robert did not care about Clara in spite of who she was. He loved her because of who she was, and Clara did not love Robert for what he had. She loved him for who he was when all the business success was stripped away. That is real love. That is the kind that lasts. So here is to Robert and Clara, proof that sometimes love just works, no matter what." The guests cheered. Clara wiped away tears while Robert held her hand, his thumb rubbing circles on her palm in that familiar, comforting way. 15 years, and he still made her heart race. 15 years, and she still surprised him with her insight and creativity. Emma, now 15 herself and looking so much like her mother it was startling, came up to them later in the evening. "You guys are actually kind of cute," she said, in that grudging way teenagers have of admitting their parents might not be completely embarrassing. "Kind of," Robert said with mock offense. "We are very cute, I will have you know." Emma rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. "Whatever, Dad." "I just wanted to say, I hope I find what you and Mom have someday." "You will," Clara assured her. "When the time is right and with the right person. Do not settle for anything less than someone who sees you and loves you exactly as you are." After the guests left and the kids were in bed, Robert and Clara stood on their balcony, looking out at the city lights. Clara leaned back against her husband, his arms wrapped around her waist, and thought about the journey they had been on together. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if it had not rained that night?" Clara asked. "If you had not stopped at the gallery, all the time," Robert admitted. "And then I think whatever cosmic force made it rain. We could have missed each other so easily," Clara said. "Different night, different choices, we never would have met." "But we did meet," Robert said, "and everything else fell into place. The age gap we worried about, meaningless, our different backgrounds, they complemented each other. All the things that could have been obstacles became strengths instead." I think that is what love is, Clara said thoughtfully. Not finding someone perfect, but finding someone whose imperfections fit with yours. Someone who makes you want to be better while loving you exactly as you are right now. When did you get so wise? Robert asked, echoing her words from years ago. I married a successful businessman, Clara said, turning in his arms to face him. It was bound to rub off eventually. They kissed under the stars, 15 years of love and partnership and shared life in that single moment. The age gap that had seemed so daunting at the beginning had become irrelevant. They were not a 41-year-old man and a 26-year-old woman anymore. They were Robert and Clara Mitchell, partners, parents, best friends. They were a family, a team, a love story that had defied expectations and built something beautiful. As they went back inside, ready to collapse into bed after a long day of celebration, Clara felt a profound sense of contentment. This was her life, messy and chaotic and full of love. This was her family, built with a man who had taken a chance on her when she was still figuring out who she was, who had supported her dreams while building new ones together. The years ahead would bring new challenges, she knew. Children growing up and leaving home, the inevitable changes that came with aging, the unpredictability of life. But they would face it together, the way they had faced everything else. With love, with respect, with the unshakable foundation they had built in an art gallery on a rainy evening 15 years ago. Age had never mattered, not really. What mattered was the connection they shared, the life they had built, the family they had created. What mattered was waking up every morning next to her best friend, her partner, her love. What mattered was knowing that no matter what came next, they would handle it together. And that, Clara thought as she fell asleep in Robert's arms, was everything.